Alex looked at the capsules scattered across the glass table. Small, seemingly harmless at first glance, with their pale factory colors, but loaded with silent promises. He had researched thoroughly, studying the dosages, the effects, the chances of failure. Nothing was done on impulse. It wasn't a cry for help. It was a full stop. The mansion around him was engulfed in silence. The modern furniture, the impeccably polished floor, the floor-to-ceiling glass windows revealing the grey view of Seattle. Everything was meticulously planned, cold, perfect. It was the same silence that had accompanied him for months, the same emptiness that filled his days since the accident. The image of his brother appeared in his mind, unexpected and cruel. Daniel always hated the minimalism of Alex's house, calling it a luxury mausoleum. He used to make a mess on purpose just to break the immaculate order. He would leave his shoes in the wrong place, scatter magazines on the couch, laugh at Alex's annoyed expression. "You need to learn to live a little," he would say with that mischievous smile. But Daniel was no longer there to mess up anything. It was just another February morning when the phone rang. Alex was reviewing financial reports, irritated by a discrepancy in the numbers, when he saw his brother's name flashing on the screen. He answered without thinking. He didn't remember exactly what they said, only that he was impatient, trying to shorten the conversation. Daniel was in the car, returning from a charity event. "You worry too much about these numbers, man. Relax a little." Those were his last words before a sharp sound cut through the line. Screeching tires, the metallic crash of an impact, the silence that followed. The police said it was a tragic accident caused by the slippery rain. Daniel died instantly. No pain, they assured him, but no one mentioned the pain left behind. In the months that followed, Alex tried to fill the void with work. But the company he had built with his brother no longer made sense. They were a team. One didn't work without the other, so he sold everything, made billions, and none of it mattered. The newspapers ran headlines about the reclusive genius who abandoned his tech empire. Theories emerged, speculations about early retirement, existential crises. No one came close to the truth. The emptiness was still there, immense, overwhelming. Friends tried to reach out, but Alex pushed them away one by one. He didn't want empty words, didn't want cliches about time or healing. He wanted Daniel back. And since that was impossible, he didn't want anything at all. Days turned into weeks, then months. The routine was always the same. Wake up late, wander around the house aimlessly, fall asleep on the couch watching old recordings of Daniel. It was torture, but it was the only way to feel something, to relive the laughter, the hugs, the silly arguments about football, until the point came when even that didn't work anymore. The void was absolute, relentless. That was when he started planning. There were no tears, no fear, just a morbid tranquility upon deciding that there was nothing left to be done. He meticulously researched lethal doses, chose the right capsules, ordered everything online. He even made a list of instructions so the right people would handle the paperwork. He didn't want to leave any inconvenience behind. The plan was simple. Take the pills, lie down in bed, close his eyes. The silence would be permanent. But there was one detail he couldn't get out of his head. One last cup of coffee, not out of addiction or taste, but out of tradition. Daniel always took him to Pike Place Market on Saturday mornings to try artisanal coffees. They laughed, argued about the best beans, criticized tourists who took too many pictures. It was a ritual just for them. Alex decided it would be his last gesture, a silent tribute, a goodbye only he would understand. After that, the capsules would do the rest. He looked at the pills once more before standing up. He grabbed his heavy coat, preparing to face Seattle's constant drizzle. He would stop at the corner cafe, have a black coffee with no sugar, just the way Daniel liked it, and then go back home to end it all. He opened the door and felt the cold wind cut across his face. It was just another grey Saturday. The city continued pulsing, indifferent to his plan. And to Alex, that seemed fitting. After all, the world wouldn't miss him. The light drizzle of Seattle, mixed with the steam rising from the manholes, creating a grey veil over the bustling streets. Alex walked automatically, hands buried in the pockets of his heavy coat, eyes fixed on the wet asphalt. The capsules were waiting for him in the drawer by his bedside, ready for his return. The thought brought a dark sense of relief. He stopped in front of a small corner cafe, tucked between souvenir shops and flower stalls at Pike Place Market. He hadn't been there since Daniel. The last time was on a rare sunny Saturday in Seattle. Daniel had insisted they try a new coffee, imported directly from Ethiopia, as if that would revolutionize their taste buds. Alex had laughed at his brother's exaggerated enthusiasm, but ended up admitting it was the best coffee he'd ever tasted. The bell above the door chimed as he walked in. The smell of fresh coffee wrapped around him immediately, mixed with the sweet scent of cinnamon and vanilla. It was a cozy place, with rustic wooden tables and warm yellow lights. Soft music played in the background, muffled by the low hum of customer conversations. Alex moved to the counter, where a young woman in a red apron was stacking cups on a high shelf. Her brown hair was tied up in a messy bun, loose strands framing her pale face. She turned as she heard him approach, smiling as if she'd known him for years. "Hi, what can I get you today?" Her voice was soft but carried a calm energy that contrasted with Alex's apathy. He hesitated for a moment, surprised by how naturally she looked at him. There was no recognition, no attempt to impress the millionaire, just genuine kindness. "Black coffee, no sugar." The words came out flat, like a command. She didn't seem bothered. "Strong, then. Anything to go with it?" "We just made fresh apple muffins." "No, just the coffee." He averted his eyes, focusing on the wall decorated with posters of music festivals. He didn't want to talk. "All right, just a moment." She turned to the coffee machine, her movements precise and practiced. The rich aroma soon filled the air around them, and Alex's stomach tightened. It wasn't hunger, it was nostalgia. His gaze wandered across the cafe, noticing the little details. Books stacked in a corner, plants hanging near the windows, children's drawings pinned behind the counter. There was a touch of life there that made the place feel less like a store and more like an extension of someone's home. The waitress returned with a steaming cup and that same sincere smile. "Here you go. Black coffee, no sugar, just like you asked. Hope it warms up this grey day a bit." Her words were casual, almost like she was in the habit of wishing people well. Alex took the cup, feeling the heat seep through the thin paper. His fingers were cold, his skin pale from rarely leaving the house. He mumbled a barely audible thanks and turned to find a place to sit. "If you need anything else, just call." She said it lightly before returning to the coffee machine, humming softly to the background music. Alex chose the corner table, the same spot where he and Daniel used to sit, laughing at inside jokes while discussing expansion plans for their company. They dreamed big. Right there in that very spot, Daniel first sketched the idea for a revolutionary mental health app. "Imagine how many people we could help," he'd said, eyes shining with excitement. The app never made it past the drawing board. And now, Alex couldn't help but notice the cruel irony. His brother had cared so much about other people's mental health, yet no one could save him. He closed his eyes, trying to push away the memories that weighed on his chest. The plan was still on. As soon as he finished that coffee, he'd go back home and end it all. Everything would end in silence, exactly as he wanted. But as he drank the bitter coffee, his gaze drifted back to the waitress. She was chatting with an elderly couple, laughing at something the man said. Her face lit up with a genuine joy, a kind of happiness that seemed immune to Seattle's grayness. It wasn't the forced smile of an employee trained to please customers. It was simple, real. Alex frowned, intrigued. She wore a stained red apron, worn-out sneakers, and carried heavy mugs as if they were feathers. There was nothing extraordinary about her appearance, but something about her radiated a lightness he didn't understand. How could someone seem so complete amidst such simplicity? He watched as she wiped down tables with carefree movements, humming along to the music playing in the background. She didn't seem to be forcing anything, didn't try to impress anyone. She just existed, with a naturalness that made Alex feel a lump in his throat. He took another sip of the coffee, feeling the bitterness slide down his throat. His eyes stayed on the waitress, analyzing every gesture, every smile she gave away freely. Alex didn't want to admit it, but he felt unsettled. She seemed so light, and he was sinking like an anchor. For the first time in months, a question crossed his mind. How could someone like her live so fully while he, having everything, saw no purpose at all? Alex didn't know it yet, but that question would be enough to change the course of his plans. Without realizing it, he let the coffee grow cold on the table, lost in the image of a life he couldn't understand. Alex didn't quite know when the routine began to change. The black coffee, without sugar, was still the same, but something inside him was different. Mornings weren't as heavy as before. He still woke up in the silent mansion. The capsules remained untouched in his nightstand drawer, but now there was a reason to leave the house. Emma. In the days that followed, Alex started arriving at the cafe earlier and earlier. He sat in the same corner, watching Emma as she worked, trying to figure out how that girl faced life with such lightness. Gradually, their conversations became longer, less superficial. "How do you do it?" he asked one day, bluntly. "How do you manage to be like this? Happy?" Emma paused, holding a tray full of dirty cups. The smile on her face didn't fade, but her eyes gained a shadow of seriousness. "I'm not happy all the time, Alex, but I've learned to find reasons to keep going." "How?" She looked at the coffee cooling in his cup, as if the answers were there. "I guess it's because I don't give myself the option to quit." Alex frowned. "You talk like it's a choice." Emma set the tray on the counter and sat in the chair across from him, something she'd never done before. "I work here because I need to pay my dad's bills. He's sick, and the treatment is expensive. At night I go to nursing school. I barely sleep. I'm always tired." She paused, watching Alex's reaction, but continued before he could interrupt. "I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that I don't have a choice. If I fall apart, who's going to take care of him?" Alex was silent, trying to process what he had just heard. He had never considered that Emma might have her own burdens. He always saw her as someone without worries, untouched by the pain that consumed him. But there she was, carrying a weight he hadn't imagined. I had no idea. There was no way you could know." Emma smiled softly, without a trace of self-pity. "But that's how I keep going. I look at him and see someone who depends on me, so I keep moving forward, one day at a time." Her words echoed in Alex's mind long after Emma had returned to work. For the first time, he saw the resilience behind her smile. She wasn't immune to pain. She just chose not to let it defeat her. That night, Alex went home feeling different. He sat on his bed, staring at the nightstand drawer where the capsules waited. For a long time, he stood there, motionless. Then, in an impulsive gesture, he opened the drawer and dumped the capsules into the toilet. He watched them swirl in the water before flushing, his stomach twisting. It wasn't exactly relief, but it felt like a start. In the following days, he kept going to the cafe. He watched Emma as she worked, now with a newfound respect for everything she faced daily. He felt compelled to do something, to help her somehow, but he didn't want her to know. He didn't want to burden her lightness with a sense of gratitude. That's when he decided to act in secret. Using contacts he had made over years in the tech industry, Alex found the doctor responsible for Emma's father's treatment. Anonymously, he paid off all the outstanding medical bills, ensuring that the care would continue uninterrupted. Then, he used his influence to secure a full scholarship for Emma at her nursing school. She wouldn't have to worry about tuition or textbooks anymore. Alex did everything quietly, careful not to leave any trace. He didn't want Emma to find out. He wasn't doing it for praise, but because he felt the need to give back what she had unknowingly done for him. But secrets never stay hidden for long. One afternoon, Emma approached Alex's table with red eyes, her face twisted with emotions he couldn't decipher. She threw the cleaning rag on the table and sat down abruptly in front of him. "Did you do this?" Alex froze. There was no need to ask what this was. Her expression said it all. I just wanted to help. You deserve the hospital bills, the scholarship." Emma's voice trembled, her gaze locked on his face. "It was you, wasn't it?" He looked down at his coffee cup, wishing he could disappear into it. "I just wanted to help. You deserve so much more than what you're going through. Why didn't you tell me?" Tears finally escaped, rolling down her face. "Why did you do it in secret?" Alex looked up, meeting the pain in Emma's eyes. The pain of someone used to carrying their own burdens, of someone who never asked for help, because you would never accept it. And he hesitated, searching for the words. "I needed to do this. You helped me in ways you don't even know. I just wanted to give something back." Emma wiped her tears with her sleeve, still trying to process everything. "I'm not a charity case, Alex. I'm not someone for you to save." Those words hit him hard. "I know. I never meant for it to seem that way. I just wanted to see you keep smiling." Emma fell silent, taking it all in. Her expression softened, though the hurt was still there. "You can't buy happiness for anyone, Alex." "I know, but I can try to ease some of the pain." His voice wavered. "Just like you did for me." The silence between them was heavy, full of unspoken things. Emma stood up, adjusting her apron with a sigh. "I need to get back to work." "Emma," he began, but she shook her head. "Not now, Alex." She walked away, leaving him alone with his cold coffee. For the first time, Alex felt fear. Fear of having ruined the only thing that had given him purpose in months. Across the cafe, Emma wiped her face and forced a smile as she served the next customer. But inside, everything was in turmoil. She didn't know what to think about Alex Morgan, the man who had silently tried to change her life. For the first time in weeks, he stayed in the silent mansion, wandering from room to room, lost in his thoughts. The conversation with Emma replayed in his mind like a broken record. "I'm not a charity case. You can't buy happiness for anyone." He had wanted to help, to give back for everything she did for him, even without knowing. But maybe he was so used to solving problems with money that he forgot not everything could be bought. When he finally decided to go back, 2 days later, his stomach churned with a mix of anxiety and fear. The thought of facing her after everything made him uncomfortable, but he knew he needed to apologize. He needed to make things right. The cafe was quieter than usual that morning. The bell above the door chimed softly as Alex walked in, and the warmth of the place wrapped him in the familiar scent of fresh coffee and cinnamon. Emma was behind the counter, focused on organizing packets of sugar, her hair tied up in a messy bun with a few rebellious strands falling loose. When her eyes met Alex's, there was a moment of tension. She froze for a second, then went back to work, pretending to be nonchalant, but it was obvious she was uneasy. Alex took a deep breath and approached the counter. "Can we talk?" Emma didn't look at him. "What will it be today? Black coffee? No sugar? I'm not here for the coffee, Emma. Alex's voice was low, almost a whisper. I'm here to apologize. This time, she stopped what she was doing, her shoulders tensing. For a moment, Alex thought she was going to kick him out, but then Emma sighed and walked out from behind the counter, motioning for a co-worker to cover for her. All right, let's talk outside. They stepped out onto the narrow sidewalk, the cold Seattle wind cutting through the air. Alex shoved his hands into his coat pockets, feeling his face burn from the cold. Emma crossed her arms, clearly trying to protect herself more from the discomfort of the conversation than the weather. I just wanted to help, Alex started, his voice full of sincerity. I saw how hard you fought every day, and you helped me without even realizing it. You made me see things differently. I just wanted to give something back. Emma studied him with a firm look, unblinking. You didn't have the right to make those decisions for me. Her voice wasn't raised, but her words were heavy. I'm grateful for what you did, Alex. I really am. But you didn't have to hide it. You didn't have to make it seem like some anonymous guardian angel. I'm not a victim. I don't need saving. He nodded, her words hitting him hard. I know, I never wanted you to feel that way. I thought I was doing the right thing. But I was wrong. And I'm sorry. For a moment, silence hung between them. The street noise felt distant, as if the world had paused to watch this scene. Emma sighed, running a hand through her hair, a nervous gesture Alex had never seen before. I'm not mad. I was surprised. Shocked, actually. I don't know what to think of you. She paused, looking at him as if trying to solve a complex puzzle. Who are you, Alex? The question hit him like a punch to the gut. He opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. For the first time in a long while, he realized he didn't know who he was. He no longer knew what he wanted, where he was going, what made sense. I don't know. His voice broke, sounding vulnerable. All I know is that before I met you, I didn't see a reason to go on. I was lost. Emma's eyes softened, her voice dropping. Alex. I wasn't planning to go back home that day. The words came out uncontrolled, a confession he didn't even know he needed to make. I was ready to end it all, but you made me question everything. You made me feel like maybe there was still something worth fighting for. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she held them back. She took a deep breath, struggling to compose herself. I didn't know. I didn't want you to know. Alex looked away, ashamed. I was so lost in the pain that I couldn't see anything beyond the emptiness. But then you showed up with your dumb smile and your terrible coffee and... I don't know. You made me want to try again. Emma blinked rapidly, holding back tears. She looked at Alex like she was truly seeing him for the first time. Not the reclusive millionaire, not the mysterious customer, but a broken man trying to rebuild himself. You don't have to do this alone, Alex. You don't have to carry this pain by yourself. He nodded, feeling a lump in his throat. I know. And if you're still okay with it, I'd like to keep coming here. Not to watch you like a creep, but just to have coffee with you as friends. Emma's smile returned, small, shy, but genuine. I'd like that. They stood there for a few more moments, just taking in the moment. It wasn't a fairy tale happy ending, but it was a beginning, and for Alex, that was enough. When they finally said goodbye, he felt lighter than he had in a long time. As he walked away from the cafe, Alex looked up at the cloudy Seattle sky and, for the first time since Daniel's death, felt something different. It wasn't complete happiness, nor blind hope, but it was a start, and that alone was a miracle. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to the channel. We need your support.